Hello. I feel like I'm not in focus. Maybe I am. First of all, I'm sorry about my hair in this video. I sort of overwashed my hair this week and I don't want to wash it again. So, unfortunately, it's just going to look like this for a little bit. But the main point of this video is to go into the foot-strut split. And the foot-strut split, if you're a British English speaker, is probably something you're aware of, but you may or may not, you may know about it in varying levels of detail. And it is the phenomenon whereby most English speakers have 6 what we call short lax vowels: a, e, o, u, and a. Whereas most Northern English speakers and many speakers of the Midlands only have 5 short lax vowels. They're missing a. So where a Southern English speaker would have different vowels in the words foot and cut, or foot and strut, a Northern English speaker would pronounce those words to rhyme with each other because the vowel is the same for them in both words. Foot-strut, or something like that. The exact quality of the foot-strut vowel will depend on exactly where in the north you're from. In my accent of English, as in most, the words cut, luck, and done take the vowel, the strut vowel, and the words book, put, and bull take the foot vowel, But for most Northern English speakers, all of these words, cut, look, done, book, put, and bull, have the same vowel phoneme. A good litmus test for whether you have the foot-strut split is to ask yourself whether foot and cut rhyme when you say them. So if you were writing a poem, would you be able to comfortably rhyme these words with each other? If you could, you probably don't have the foot-strut split, and there's a good chance you're from Northern England. Most dialects of English in Southern England, Scotland, Ireland, the US, Australia, and so on have the foot-strut split. So in other words, they couldn't rhyme foot and cut because those words have 2 different vowel sounds. Hopefully it's clear enough why linguists use foot and strut as the 2 sort of lexical set example words for this split, because the vowels in foot and strut are different if you have the split, but they're the same if you don't have the split, generally. But why do we call it the foot-strut split? If Northern English is unusual in having these 2 phonemes the same, then doesn't it make more sense to call it the foot-strut merger and say that it only happens in the north and that everyone else just has the normal vowel inventory? As you might already know, there are historical reasons for this. Hundreds of years ago, no English speakers had this vowel split. Everyone pronounced cut to rhyme with put, kut, put. There are several lines of evidence that point to this being the case, and maybe the most straightforward is that poets from back then happily rhyme cut words with put words, even in the south of England. The spelling also clues us in. In the Middle English period, there was no standard system of spelling, so although there were definitely established spelling conventions that people learnt from each other, like using double O to represent the O sound, or using OU to represent the OO sound, there was a lot of flexibility in spelling, so the fact that writers deliberately chose to spell words like cut and put with a letter U, which normally represents something like U in other European languages, suggests that they had the same vowel and that vowel had a quality something like U, kut, put. Obviously them using U doesn't absolutely necessarily mean that they had the U quality, but there are other reasons for thinking that it probably did. It's impossible for us to tell exactly where this sound change started and when it started, because it probably started in speech quite a bit before it happened in writing. But, and also it probably happened in some regional dialect before it made its way into the standard. But we can make some broad statements about when and where it happened based on spelling evidence when it does appear in writing, and also rhyming evidence. Look at the spellings of words that contain the foot and strut vowels for people with the split. Both of these vowels can be represented in spelling by a double O or by the letter U. Cut but blood, put but foot. This double O spelling can also represent a third vowel, the U vowel, like in goose. You have 2 types of spelling here and 3 vowels, and the spellings don't map onto the vowels with any obvious pattern. You might already have predicted what I'm going to say next. In Southern Middle English, the OO spelling and the U spelling consistently represented 2 different vowels, and a series of sound changes mixed these vowels up in speech while they stayed the same in spelling. So now the spelling no longer reflects the way things are pronounced, which is the case with a lot of English spelling. In Southern Middle English, words like blord, gorse, fort and balk were pronounced with a long O vowel. Words like put, cut, strut were pronounced with a short U vowel. The process called the Great Vowel Shift caused that long O vowel to raise to U, so that these words became blood, goose, foot, book. Spelling evidence suggests that this was mostly complete in London by about 1500. And gradually many of these U words started to have their vowels shortened, so that U became U. This happened through a process called lexical diffusion, where some words adopt a sound change before others do. And at the same time as this shortening was affecting the U vowel in certain words, another separate sound change was taking place. Normally the short U vowel in early modern English was pronounced with rounded lips, but speakers were increasingly starting to pronounce it with their lips unrounded. So U was becoming something like cut, look. That sound change had a few exceptions. So if the vowel came after a sound pronounced with the lips, like b, p or f, it retained its original lip rounding and it stayed U. It didn't have this sound change to So in the word cut, there's no labial sound like b, p or f, so the vowel unrounded. Kut became something like cut. Over time, this unrounded U vowel lowered in the mouth, and across modern dialects a low back vowel is now common, so something like cut, or cat, or something along those lines. But this original unrounding in the 1600s was inconsistent. With a rule like this, words either meet the condition or they don't. You'd expect to be able to predict exactly which words ended up with which vowel based on the rule. But you can't always do that. You have words like but, which have a labial sound b, but still took the unrounded vowel a. You even have minimal pairs like put and put, where the only difference in pronunciation between the words is that one ended up with and the other ended up with a. The difference between the and vowels is therefore so important that speakers sometimes use it to tell the difference between words. Now let's go back to the 1600s. Like I said, there were two sound changes operating at the same time. This unrounding of U to was happening, but also long U was becoming short U in certain words. For some words like blood, this shortening happened early on, so blood became blood early on in the process. And because it happened early on, the word then fell into the FOOT-STRUT split and came out as blood, and we now say blood. In some words, the U only shortened after the FOOT-STRUT split had happened, so in words like good and talk, you end up with good and took, which are nowadays pronounced good, took. And then you have words that just kept the longer vowel. Goose has ended up as modern goose. So that explains the weird modern spelling situation. Richard Hodges, who wrote The English Primrose in 1644, is one of the earliest writers to describe two separate vowels that correspond to modern and a. He says that the words wool and pull have one short vowel, the words us and sun have a separate short vowel, and the word pool has a long vowel. This is the same split as we find in modern English. Wool and pull have one vowel, us and sun have a different vowel, and pool has a different vowel to both of them. Hodges describes the wool-pull vowel as the short equivalent of the long pool vowel, but he doesn't describe the us-sun vowel as having any long equivalent. This would make sense if the wool-pull vowel had retained the lip rounding and tongue height of the Middle English short u vowel, which is exactly what we think happened. So it's the us-sun vowel that has changed and taken on a new quality. Nowadays that quality is something like depending on your accent, but what did it sound like back in Hodges' time? Well, the vowel started off as U and now it's A. So Occam's razor says Hodges' vowel in 1644 was probably somewhere between those two qualities. Not necessarily, definitely between those two qualities, but that's a good place to start looking. So we're looking for a vowel quality which was recognisably different from U, either with less lip rounding, pronounced lower in the mouth, or both. If you take U and go slightly lower in the mouth, you get O. Remember that Hodges was describing vowels in terms of long, short pairs, and there's very robust evidence that early modern English in London had a long or vowel in words like storn, born. If the vowel in sun and us had been short o, son, os, Hodges would probably have described it as the short version of the storn, born vowel. It makes more sense that the vowel had lost its lip rounding to something like or us, sun, or us, sun. Unrounded back vowels are very rare in English, so it makes sense that Hodges wouldn't be able to compare this to any existing long vowel. So, linguists tend to think that this new vowel probably first unrounded and then got gradually lower over time, although the exact quality is hard to pinpoint. By the time of the first sound recordings from London, people were already pronouncing the cut vowel with its modern range of qualities, anywhere between and ah. This describes the foot-strut split in London, and although it was probably volatile at first, by now most Southern English speakers and most American speakers agree on which words have and which words have But other parts of the UK dealt with all this in slightly different ways, so in places like Wales, a lot more words with long oo have had it shortened to oo in the early modern period, so you now have pronunciations like roof and tooth for roof and tooth. In Northern England, where the foot-strut split didn't happen, you have different distributions. All the Middle English oo words still have the same vowel as each other, which is something like but words that had o in Middle English have behaved slightly differently. In Cumbrian in the 1800s, which is my favourite northwestern English dialect, foot and cut still didn't rhyme with each other because the Middle English long or vowel had developed differently. It had become ear, which you can hear in this recording of a speaker born in the late 1800s.
The thing is a lot different now to what the vowel are when scale.
So Geers, Fiat, Birk all took the same vowel, but Kot and Strut took a different vowel, probably basically the same vowel as they had in Middle English. Some other Northern English and Midlands dialects ended up with took, goose after the Great Vowel Shift, just like in the South. But before a k, the oo never shortened, so instead of book, look, you now get book, look. So that's all I've got to say about that. Me and my friends Scott and Tom, back in, I think, September, made a short film which has now been released, so if you'd like to watch that, it's in the description. But otherwise, I will see you hopefully slightly sooner, so I don't know, a week or a week and a half rather than 2 weeks. I apologise for the delay in making this video. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon.